On a small island at dawn, a man stood waiting to die, and history would not keep his age, or his face, or even whether he truly lost. We remember the winner. We named the island after the loser's own school, and then forgot the loser himself. His name was Sasaki Kojiro. This is the story his killer's students did not write. Start with the blade, because the blade is almost all we have. It was an adachi, a field sword, with a cutting edge nearly 3 feet long, so absurdly overgrown that other swordsmen laughed at it. They called it the monohoshizao, the launder-drying pole. A weapon that length was supposed to be useless, too slow, and too heavy to turn in a real fight. In his hands it was neither. He drew it in a rising arc so fast that men swore he could cut a swallow out of the air in mid-flight, and he named the move for exactly that, Tsubame Gareishi, the turning swallow. That single technique made him a legend. The trouble is, almost everything else about him dissolves the moment you reach for it. We do not know the year he was born. We do not know where. Fukui, some say, others only shrug. We do not even know his real name. Kojiro was likely a nickname, and Sasaki a guess at a family. Some serious historians go further, and wonder whether he was one man at all, or several minor fighters folded together over a century of retelling until they hardened into a single famous ghost. Here is a swordsman whose name every gamer in the world now knows, who walks through a dozen video games and a manga read on 5 continents, and whose actual life is nothing but a blank page. What we do have is a school. He called his style Ganryu, and the story goes that he founded it after defeating his own teacher's younger brother, cutting his way out of one lineage to begin his own. He was good enough to be hired by a powerful clan, the Hosokawa, lords of the Kokura domain in the far west of Japan, as their official sword instructor. That was not a small thing. A great domain did not hand that post to a nobody. By the time the famous story finds him, Kojiro was no hot-blooded young challenger at all. He was an established master, at the very top of his profession, with a hard-won reputation to lose. And then a wanderer came to take it. You already know the wanderer's name. Miyamoto Musashi, the most famous swordsman who ever lived, author of a book on strategy still sold in airport shops 400 years later. In the films and the games, the two men are matched rivals, young and beautiful, fated to collide. Strip away the romance and the picture changes completely. The best evidence suggests Kojiro was not Musashi's mirror image at all. He may well have been an old man of 50, 60, perhaps older still, a senior master being challenged by a rough, unranked fighter in his 20s, a man who had built his name by unsettling more respectable swordsmen. This was not two equals meeting in the mist. This was the establishment against the outsider, and the outsider would write the ending. The duel was set for a sandbar out in the strait, a strip of nothing between the islands. They agreed on a morning hour. Kojiro came on time. Musashi did not. He left the old master standing armed on the beach for hours, in the rising sun, with nothing to do but grow hot and angry. And while he waited, the wanderer was still out on the water, being rowed slowly across, calmly carving a crude wooden sword from a spare boat oar. He never brought a real blade at all. He meant to beat the finest swordsman in Western Japan with a paddle, and he meant to beat him already half-cooked with rage before a single blow was struck. It worked. When Musashi finally splashed ashore, Kojiro drew that magnificent longsword and hurled the empty scabbard into the surf. And Musashi, this is the line every Japanese schoolchild half remembers, called back that he had already lost. A man who means to win, he said, does not throw away his sheath. They rushed each other. The swallow turned, that impossible rising cut came up, and it caught nothing but the cloth of Musashi's headband. The oar came down once. Kojiro fell. That is where the famous story ends. A clean and perfect victory. Raw genius over wounded pride. The wanderer walks off into legend, and the master lies still on the wet sand. Except one old record does not end there. The Numata family kept their own account of that day, set down by people tied to the local castle, and it tells something far uglier. In their telling, Kojiro was struck down but not killed. He stirred. He woke on the sand, and Musashi students, who were never supposed to be anywhere near that island, closed in and finished the wounded man where he lay. If that is what truly happened, then the most honorable single combat in all of samurai history was neither single nor honorable. It was an ambush, dressed up afterward as a duel, by the only side that lived to tell it. We will never know for certain. And that, in the end, is the whole point. Every version of this fight, the late arrival, the wooden sword, the thrown scabbard, the clean and noble death, reaches us down channels held entirely by the winner. Musashi's adopted son carved one account in stone. His grand students wrote the rest, generations later, polishing their master a little smoother with every copy. Kojiro left no students to answer them. No book. No memorial in his own hand. The loser does not get to file a rebuttal. So the swordsman was slowly flattened into a role. In story after story he became whatever Musashi needed him to be, the proud, gifted, doomed rival whose only real job is to make the hero's victory mean something. The elegant young genius with the swallow cut, the Kojiro of the games and the screen, is in large part a character built around a hole in the record. The real one may have been an aging teacher, killed on a beach, possibly by more hands than one. And yet, look at what he left behind without ever meaning to. That barren sandbar in the strait has a name today. It is not called Musashi's Island. It is called Ganryujima, Ganryu Island, after the school of the man who died there. The winner took the fight. The loser, somehow, took the ground. For centuries on, boats still carry visitors out to a rock that wears a dead master's style in its very name, while the details of his life stay lost in the tide around it. There is something worth keeping in that. We are trained to remember winners, and to trust that the surviving story is the true one. But the record is always written by whoever is left standing, and the quiet, careful, on-time master is not always the one who gets to shape how he is remembered. Sometimes the most honest thing you can say about a famous story is that the other man never got to tell his half. So here is the question I keep turning over. If nearly everything we know about Sasaki Kojiro, the late arrival, the wooden sword, even the manner of his defeat, reaches us only through the man who killed him, then how much of the legend do you actually believe? Tell me in the comments. I read every one. If this story stayed with you, subscribe. Tales of Old Japan brings a new story every Sunday, Wednesday, and Saturday. The swallow is still turning.